to Philly Sports Unfiltered. Guys, in today's video, it is another exciting day to be a Philadelphia 76ers fan. James Harden has officially opted out of his $47 million player option. We talk about what this means for James Harden and his contract, and we talk about what it means overall for the Philadelphia 76ers free agency period. Also, it seems that there's a couple teams that are interested in a Matisse Thybulle trade. We're going to get all into that straight away. So first of all, the biggest news of free agency so far, it is something that I think we all hoped, is that James Harden was going to decline his option. And this really opens the door for a lot more flexibility in free agency. If Harden did not do this, our hands were extremely tied. So Adrian Wojnarowski, he came in and he said, 76ers star James Harden has declined his $47.3 million option to become a free agent. He keeps the real possibility of negotiating a new deal that would deliver the Sixers roster-building flexibility in free agency, including the use of a full $10.5 million exception. This is really, really important, okay? This means quality veteran player right there. And Wojnarowski goes on to say that in addition to this full $10.5 million exception, by James Harden doing this, they could also be in the running to get a $4.1 million biannual exception for sign-in trades, which again opens up huge flexibility. This was essentially reiterated by John Clark, just talking about, James Harden has done this to give the Sixers the flexibility that they need to contend, and James Harden is expected to come back on a deal. What I've heard is it's going to be a 3-year deal for less money. So James opting out of this, I think what he's going to wait to do is wait until the Sixers get done making their moves, see who they can bring in, okay, and then decide what type of money he's going to be on, decide the contract, because we can see from this, I've been very critical of James Harden, been critical of his play last season. He was not deserving of a $47 million contract, but he said that he wanted to win. He said that he was willing to sacrifice to do whatever it took to make the Sixers win, and he put his money where his mouth is. He's taking less money. A lot of players, they didn't do this. Kyrie opted in. Westbrook opted in. Wall opted in. Everybody's lining up to take their money, but Harden declined his option. He is going to take less, and it is going to put the Sixers into a much better position. Now, what is this going to look like? Who are the potential players that we could be bringing in here? Well, we all know one name, and I think this one is extremely likely at this point. I think it is extremely likely that the Sixers are now going to bring in PJ Tucker. Both Keith Pompey and Brian Windhorst both said that the Sixers are interested in him. It's looking like a 3-year, $30 million deal. Obviously, PJ Tucker is the type of veteran that we do need. He can play center. He's a dog. He's extremely, extremely physical on the boards. He's extremely physical on defense. He has that want-to, okay? He is an absolute dog. So it would be a good addition. He is a young 37. I'm concerned about giving 3 years, $30 million to someone who is 37, and especially that third year. A 40-year-old PJ Tucker making $10 million. The deal's probably not going to look good for him, but probably for the next 2 seasons, it could be a good deal. The other deal that I could potentially see, now that the Sixers are open for sign-in trades, Bradley Beal, okay, he opted out of his deal with the Washington Wizards. That could be something. Maybe a 3-team deal involving Tobias Harris. Maybe something like that could bring Bradley Beal to the 76ers. Let's see how that develops. But I want to touch a little bit more on James Harden, okay? Because I think this is really important. I know a lot of Sixers fans, they're concerned, me included, giving James Harden a longer-term deal, even 3 years. Given what we saw, given the shape that his body was in last year, there's some concerns there. Obviously, if we're getting peak James Harden, okay, no problem, come on. But he was not in NBA shape, let's say. But James Harden has said he is confident he is going to come back better next season. And this is what he said. And then I want to give you a little bit of inside information, okay? Something that I heard today that kind of perked my ears up a bit, all right? So James Harden said, "I'm excited, man. I've been trying to get right throughout the course of a basketball season for 2 years straight. That's not it. All last summer I was rehabbing and it was a little frustrating because I'm not used to going through something like that, but it is what it is. I'm just happy to be healthy now. I got a full summer to be straight and to do the next necessary things to come back even better next year." So what was James Harden referring to? Well, his trainer and his shooting coach, they came out and they shed a little bit of light on what's really been going on with James Harden the past 2 seasons. Basically, his trainers have come out and said that, James Harden's hamstring injury, it wasn't like it was a pull. This was a tear that required surgery, okay? And the last 2 summers, the last 2 off seasons, all James Harden was doing was rehabbing. For the last 2 years, he was not able to follow his normal training regimen, and therefore he wasn't able to keep his body in shape because he's been rehabbing that hamstring for the past 2 years. And this is what has led him to looking like he just didn't have an NBA body last season. Now, the word is that James Harden is already back training for the new NBA season, and in the entirety of his history in the NBA, this is the earliest that he has begun his off-season training program. For me, this is very encouraging news. If it's really a case that James Harden just was physically unable to stay in shape because of his rehab, because he couldn't go through maybe he's not washed, maybe he's just out of shape, maybe if he hits it really hard this summer, he gets his body back, he gets his step back, he gets his explosion, he gets that burst back, and we get some flashes of the James Harden of old. If so, that is really, really good news for the Sixers. I think it is worth it to see what happens in this upcoming offseason. And if in the meantime, Daryl Morey can wheel and deal, you can bring in a couple more solid veterans. Maybe you bring in PJ Tucker. Maybe you find some way to move on from Tobias Harris and bring in a guy like Bradley Beal or bring in some greater depth pieces. Because there is still some moves that seem to be pending. Also, news came out today that there's 2 Western Conference teams that are interested in a Matisse Thybulle trade. And it seems to be both the Blazers and the Mavericks, okay? And Daryl Morey is not going to give away Thybulle for nothing, okay? He's only counting like $4-something million against the cap. So this isn't something that's just financial. What James Harden did alone is enough to give the Sixers financial flexibility to do a lot of things in free agency. This, I believe, if we make a trade for Thybulle, it will be to bring in some type of veteran support. A playoff-ready bench piece is what I suspect. So, guys, that is the news. It is a really good news day for the Philadelphia 76ers. As I said, kudos to James Harden. Good on him for doing this. Put his money where his mouth is, and he has put our team in a better position by being willing to sacrifice money to give us the ability to get better. So I have to say, round of applause to James Harden. Definitely appreciate that and excited to see where the Sixers go with this. Let me know what you guys think about this early news. Are you excited that James Harden has declined his player option? What do you think about a potential James Harden trade? Do you think we're going to be bringing on PJ Tucker? Do you think that Bradley Beal is a possibility? Do you think there's an outside chance of a Kyrie Irving trade, even though he said that he's definitely going back to the Nets? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.